Good afternoon. I'm Chair Darren Green, and I'd like to welcome you to the June 9th, 2022 Asheville Area River Redevelopment Commission meeting. The purpose of the AARRC is to recommend to the city and county an overall policy for the continued development and sustainability of the regional riverfront. The commission provides recommendations to the city and county for effective management of the public resources for the districts and actively pursues and assists private sector investments in the districts. The commission is made up of 14 members representing the city of Asheville, the Council of Independent Business Owners, Riverlink, Asheville City Council, Buncombe County Commission, and the town of Woodfin. Our committees consist of mobility and transportation connections and public safety, including river recreation and water quality. All commission members and staff are participating virtually. We appreciate your patience as we work through this committee meetings a bit differently. Pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 166A-19.24F. This will be a remote meeting which the public can access by any of the following means. We are streaming live on our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link on the front page of the city website and also linked on the committee page. We also have an option for the public to listen by phone by calling 855-925-2801. The meeting code number is 9385 for callers to call in and listen. Send comments by email to Riverfront Commission June 9 at publicinput.com. For those of you out there with us today, welcome. I'll call this meeting to order. It's 4:03 p.m. I'm going to call roll call. When you hear your name, simply say here. Vice Chairman David Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Parker Sloan is not here. Christy Quinn. Spacebar. No, got it. Okay. Ann Keller.
Here.
Joseph Ransmeyer. Oh, lost Joe. Councilwoman Sage Turner.
I am here.
Tim Schaller.
Here.
Ben Williamson. Not present. Kate and Kaya.
Here.
Jeremy Goldstein.
Here.
Samantha Cole. Not present. Jim McAllister. Also not present. We do have enough members for a quorum, so we'll begin our meeting. We will review minutes and vote on those in the July meeting. We have some continuing business. We're going to introduce Mike Sewell from Asheville on Bikes, who's going to give us a presentation on Asheville Unpaved. Mike, it's all yours.
Thank you for having me today. Can I share my screen?
Yes, you don't need permission. You can just use the button at the bottom that has a little arrow inside of a rectangle.
Got it. Okay, cool. Thank you. So I'm with you. My slides are all messed up. I'm with you today to share out the Asheville Unpaved initiative, which is a partnership between Asheville on Bikes, Pisgah area Sorba. They are the mountain biking association that maintains and manages most of the trail systems in Western North Carolina, and Connect Buncombe, which is a focus of building greenway systems throughout Buncombe County. So between Asheville on Bikes, Pisgah area Sorba, Connect Buncombe, and in partnership with the city of Asheville, we have pursued this Asheville Unpaved initiative. And what is Asheville Unpaved? It's the idea of building a series of interconnected natural surface trails throughout the city of Asheville, primarily built on public lands and on some lands that are privately owned. I'll get to that later in the presentation. Why do we want to do this? The number one reason is this idea of front door access to trails. If you think about mountain biking in our city, generally it requires a car and you are driving to Bent Creek or Richmond Hill or Pisgah National Forest. And what we're working on creating is a complementary system that will allow people to access the natural world forested areas and parks via by leaving their front door, hopping on a bicycle, slipping on a pair of running shoes, or walking down the street. And then we've obviously identified the health and wellness, increased sense of community, neighborhood connectivity, and more trails built for fewer dollars. And I will return to that concept in a bit. The goals of the current planning of the process, this is working with the city, but having a community-led process. I mentioned the 3 nonprofits in our work and develop trail guidelines, and implement pilot projects for the phase 1 trails, which I'll be sharing with you shortly. I've already mentioned here the logos of the partners: Pisgah Area Sorba, Asheville on Bikes, Connect Buncombe, and of course the city of Asheville. What does the system offer? Equitable systems, fewer trails for fewer dollars, sustainably built trail system, and nonprofit investment. We're not just coming to the city asking them to do something. We are actively investing real dollars in this initiative. And this is a quick scope of what we've have accomplished so far. We started organizing loosely in 2019. And most recently, we have a memorandum of agreement between the nonprofit partners on how to move the Asheville Unpaved Alliance forward. We're currently working with the city on a formal MOU and are pursuing funding mechanisms for this phase 1 trail systems. And then we are also getting on a variety of neighborhood and community agendas to share out Asheville Unpaved. This is the logo that we came up with. And it's kind of based on this idea that we were kicking around earlier when we were just getting together, a sort of an under-leveraged feature of the city of Asheville is that we have these wonderful pockets of the natural world that twist and turn and arrive in the incredible built environment that we have. And it's a very unique experience to Asheville. I mean, I ride my bicycle all over the country in a variety of cities. And we have something that I've seen very little of in other places, where you're out in a section and it's river or stream, rock and tree, and you go down a hill and you make a left turn, and then boom, you're right in the middle of the built environment where it's art and architecture and coffee and beer and all kinds of stuff. So let's hop into the first phase 1 of the trails. These are the areas that have been identified to build the trail systems, and I'll just hop right into the map. This is our connectivity map. I'll try and load it up. There we go. And so you have French Broad River West, Bacote Branch, Mountainside, and then way over here in east, you've got the River Ridge and Azalea Park. So these circles represent the phase 1 alignments of Asheville Unpaved. And the red lines that you see are the existing roadways that we would use to connect from one alignment into the next. One of the great things about this project is, unlike any other greenway project that we've seen thus far, this project creates immediate circuitry connecting from one end of the city to another end of the city. And that is best really experienced with this with these 3 alignments: the French Broad River West, the Bacote Branch, and the Mountainside Park. The 2 on the eastern, the Azalea and the River Ridge, these are going to really be fully maximized and realized once the Swannanoa Greenway is implemented. So I'll go through the couple of the individual alignments. This is the Bacote Branch. Here is Asheville Middle School. Ashton Park. Here's Clingman Hill, or Clingman Avenue, excuse me. So this alignment is right adjacent to Asheville Middle School. It's one of the reasons that it's the primary reason why Asheville on Bikes got involved in this program, because we've been running a youth cycling program for about 10 years. And the students that we serve, although they're living right in the middle of like mountain biking Mecca, they have the least access to experience mountain biking in Western North Carolina. And out of, you know, the 30, 40 hours of cycling instruction that they get from us per semester, they can get maybe 20 minutes of riding the dirt, because we have to load kids up. We got to get them into a bus. We got to get the bikes off and back and forth. So we really identified a need for access to teaching mountain biking skills. The red line denotes cycling specific, like your traditional mountain bike trail. And then the green would be a natural surface multi-use trail. So that's all the uses. That's biking, running, walking, dog walking, bird watching, bench sitting, all of those things. The Breakout branch, these are the opinionated construction costs right now of what it would cost. And then this is obviously the River Arts District. Right here is the built out Wilma Dykeman Greenway. Across the river, here is the dog park, and you'll see the hashed yellow line. That is the French Broad River West Greenway that is currently under construction. And what we are proposing is that you would have like a spur alignment that would be a natural surface. That would be the green, again, the multi-use. And then you would also create a cycling specific alignment in this area as well. And so again, you can start to see how the Breakout branch and the French Broad River West alignments complement one another. So you might start up on French Broad and then drop down, hit the greenway, cross the river, hit this trail system, and back and forth. And again, the estimated costs for what this would cost for construction. Mountainside Park, which is Bowcatcher, and to orient everyone, here's Memorial Stadium, here is McCormick Field, and there's an old logging road right that currently exists right now that serves as sort of a greenway in the rough. And this again would be another system of multi-use. And then up here is where we would have an opportunity to put some more advanced skills for cyclists to enjoy. And then the costs. Here's the East Asheville Azalea Park. This yellow line is the Swananoa, the future Swananoa Greenway. Here are the Thomas Wolfe cabins, and we sort of have like a lollipop multi-use experience out here, and then an alignment that comes off of the what will be eventually the Swananoa Greenway that would take you to Highland Brewing, and then the costs. This is the one alignment that is proposed for private property and would require an easement that would allow public access. But here is, this is kind of like the Walmart area. There's the traffic circle. I think that's like Cheddar's. There's an existing greenway here. And then the proposed Asheville Unpaved system would tie in. And then you would be able to reconnect with the greenway here. And the estimated costs. And that's what we're working.
Can you go back to that flash of estimated cost?
Of which one? Is there a specific alignment that you're asking me?
No, I just wanted to see it. The one, you did it. Thank you.
Okay. The total costs is $1 million is what we've budgeted for this project. An average cost of a greenway mile is about $1 million, and the Asheville Unpaved is about 9.5 miles of trail system. And that is only the the alignments. That does not include the slow neighborhood streets that would connect one facility to the next. So it's a pretty good return on the investment. Yes, David? I can't.
If you had to prioritize these, which would be the most important and how would you do it over a period of years?
That's a great question, and one that we're getting a lot of questions about. So in my opinion, the Mountainside Park has the most potential to be the crown jewel of the first phase of the Asheville Unpaved. And that is just an amazing, beautiful part of our city. It's also probably the most complex to build. So when we look at through the AOB values of equity and access, the two alignments that would be the priority would be the Cote branch that connects to Asheville Middle School, and then also the French Broad River West alignment. And the reason for that is that the Asheville Unpaved is fully realized when you have the mix of the natural world and then rolling out into the built environment and then back into the natural world. So that would be the highest return and sort of the proof of concept. And secondarily, it would serve our youth cycling program to the max. Yes, Jeremy.
How much are those two, and how long I think part of David's question was, how would you phase that in? Like, if you didn't do it all at once, are you planning to raise everything all at once and then do it all, or do it over a period of time?
Right now, shoot the moon and scale from there. In terms of the return on the investment, it's relatively easy to do, the trail systems to build. And in terms of retaining a builder, we feel like over time it's going to be less expensive to hire someone to build it all out at once than to piecemeal it over time. So our target right now is to raise it. We have applied for the tourism development grant for $500,000, and we're currently working on a development plan to raise that additional $500,000. So as much as I don't like to use the metaphor of hitting the gas, that's exactly what AOB and our partners is doing on this project. I mean, these urban natural surface trails are popping up in cities all over the country. And, we're not really trying to do anything, we're not trying to do something amazing, because these are already implemented in cities. What we're doing is we're trying to play catch up. We're trying to get there. Yes, Tim.
May I ask a question?
Oh, wait, sorry. I don't know. Yeah, Joe, sorry.
Joe.
Yeah.
So when you say natural surface, are you talking about gravel, like a road bond kind of material?
So that's a really good question. So the natural surface, and so I guess the one answer to it, there's lots of answers. There's lots of surface options for the natural trail system. Some of it will be like dirt that you would just like ride like single track, and then other material would be used for the multi-use. The trail surface would also be engineered or to drain, and so different materials are going to be different in different locations. Does that make sense? Yeah.
It does, but I'm wondering what the yearly upkeep of this will be compared to a paved surface.
Yeah. And we hired a professional trail builder to do this. And part of the reason is the maintenance. So we want to make sure the trails function and they drain. properly. Most of the trail systems that you see in Bent Creek and in Pisgah National Forest, they were not designed as mountain bike trails. And so there has been a ton of innovation and design standards for trail building that we really don't see a lot of. It's slowly being implemented here. So we wanted to design them with sustainability and low maintenance. Now that said, there will be maintenance, of course, as any sort of facility. And what we're really looking to do is to have a maintenance agreement with the trail builder, so that you think of like your spring cleanup and your fall cleanup, and when things fail or when they need to be maintained, we have a contract for maintenance with the trail design team.
Tim, you had a question?
Yeah, it's more of I'd like to know how we can support this as an organization. I mean, I like this, the idea of public-private is always intriguing to me. This isn't really public-private, but it isn't it's not a big ask on the city. Even if it's a letter of support to the TDA, hopefully when the change in legislation comes through, there'll be more TDA money pretty quickly. So I think this is a great program. I've watched what's happened at the middle school program. It really is important for our kids. So, Mike, what can we do to help you?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. You can get out your checkbook. But
next question.
Certainly for the TDA grant, a letter of support would be greatly appreciated. There's that. And then secondly, I want to get in front of as many people, as many groups. I want to get in front of champions, skeptics, opposition, and share this idea and get the feedback to be able to move this forward. So if there's any association or group that you think might be interested, I will show up. Everything that I showed you, I also have printed in large format maps, which are a lot easier than using the whole Google Meetup. So another a low-hanging fruit opportunity, Tim, would be Asheville Unpaved night at the Wedge, where we just set up the alignments, and there's more than a few of us who can talk knowledgeably about what the work that we have done and just share out the work that we're doing.
Well, I think to get deeper into this, if we just ran this by Eddie and that group, I'm sure that there might be money, and I know that they want to put a spur off of that, which would probably feed it. So yeah, anytime outside of foundation would be great. So.
Yeah. Thank you for that question.
Well, Mike, if there's no more questions, thank you very much. I'll circle back with you on getting a letter in support. Like Tim and probably all of us, we think this is a fantastic opportunity, and we appreciate you and all your hard work for 10 plus years working on this and seeing the vision. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Darren. Thanks for the opportunity. And if anyone has any follow-up questions, I love to talk about the things that I'm interested in. So I got an opinion and a phone number.
Well, thank you.
All right. Cheers.
Great job, Mike, too. That was a really great presentation.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It feels a little rough on my end, but I'm glad it landed well. Cheers.
All right. Moving on, I'm gonna throw the microphone to Anne, and she is going to lead the discussion on the Water Quality Summit number 2, to be held in September at our September meeting. And Anne, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Let me just start by saying this is a follow-up to the meeting we had, whatever last time date was, at Tim's place, and we started getting information from DEQ, and some other people about the status of the river and its health and the economic impact of the river. So there's an economy piece and there's a river water quality related piece that I think everybody ought to be getting interested in at this point. And so a few of us, Samantha and Kate and Darren and I got together, sort of a walking impromptu brainstorming a week or 8 or 10 days ago down by the river, just to think through, to offer some ideas for what that next step might look like based on our conversations as a whole commission. And so we put together some ideas that we wanted to share with you, get your input, adjust it, do whatever we need so that we can begin the planning in earnest for that next event. So if it's okay, I'm going to share this draft rough sort of approach that we put together to see how everybody feels and what we think would work. Right. What we're looking for were to lay out some ideas about, in the big picture, what the ultimate goal was, what the short-term goal would be for this meeting we're proposing in September. I'll come back and go through this much more in detail in a minute, but then the when and where and who we would invite. And then of course, how we would step through the whole meeting. So we looked at this and thought that our big picture goal at the end of our effort would be to get a group of stakeholders from various subgroups in the community to help all of us better protect our river and its health through development of a coordinated plan. And I think that will take some time and effort, but it is the final goal, I hope. And then the next thing would be to implement it and help to garner support for that as well. That would be another step we could take. But in the interim, we wanted to look at, following up a little bit more, and some folks who weren't at the last meeting didn't see the presentation from DEQ and others about this. But, we wanted to look at the causes of the water quality problems, and they still have not done a press release for it, but we talked to DEQ the other day. It's just a matter of paperwork and bureaucracy. We know that 19 miles of the river from just about Long Shoals Road all the way up to the Craggy Dam in Woodfin will now be added to the list of impaired waters, largely due to bacteria and sediments. And then we have Bacote Branch and Nasty Branch, I think, added, and some fairly big areas along the Swananoa. So, these are pretty important areas for us as a community relative to outside activities that Mike was just talking about, and to the business end of it, where the outfitters and all the developers are now adding more and more investment down there at the river and up in Woodfin, and it'll next be in Marshall and so forth. So this is trying to stop things from getting worse and help them get better. So we imagined that we could perhaps set it up in early September for the regular meeting, set it up for 2 hours, and then the invitees, you can see the list there, will be the commission, city and county staff, might be like we had Russ Davis from, and Amy and Greg, I think, were there from stormwater in the city, and get the county to provide some folks, maybe somebody from TDA, the chamber, and of course we have some reps on the AARC that are already representing some of these groups. But the neighborhood presidents that are in the area that might be wanting to contribute to thinking, and they can poll and work with their community members and then bring information. The nonprofits, the businesses that are related to this whole area and future areas, elected officials, we certainly would love to have them participate. Design experts, developers, and you see the ... So we would have to think about who would be the most critical, who we can focus on this topic, and begin to develop a group that would work on it. So then once we get them there, and we haven't located a place, but we've talked about it as a group, brainstorming about that as well. Maybe Steph can share some information. I'm not sure yet. And then, bring everyone together, do a presentation briefly, bringing everybody up to the same moment, having provided perhaps background information beforehand. And we imagine these folks being, invited. I don't know how well it would work for people just showing up. But of course, if a few people did, it's a public meeting, we can move them into the groups, but break up into groups so that we have a good distribution of all those different representatives, business, developer, nonprofit, city staff, all those, kind of in each group as much as we can. We think that the members of the commission would be serving as facilitators, so that at each table, for example, we would have somebody keeping things moving, following up, somebody helping to take notes, and we would provide between now and then, of course, a set of comment or questions and topics to focus on, so that the time you spend with each other around these tables will produce some thoughts, some, what we can pull together. It might be how we're going to, what are we going to do to improve the water quality? What coalition could work on a plan? What, neighborhoods may be able to contribute some effort. Nonprofits may be able to. So all of those pieces around there that could discuss parts, we have to nail down. But the idea would be after that to come to some kind of agreement about how we would put together a plan, certainly in conjunction with the city and county. We can't do it without them. They have resources, knowledge, staff, and so forth in order to enable it to happen. We don't want to make a plan and just have it sit somewhere. We want to have a plan to help it then get implemented. And then we would have a return to the whole group and discuss, what the findings were, what people thought about it, how it worked. And then finally coming to some agreement about our next steps, and as much as possible to condense down what we discussed and what the results of all of it were into several bullets, so that we can convey that to various people and get them to be, contributors and involved in it as well. So I don't know if I can unshare this. I can, do whatever I wanted. We wanted to get Samantha and I and Kate and Darren for sure wanted to get some input on this, and, have comment from everybody. So if you can, I'm trying to stop sharing here. Somehow
You did.
oh, good. Then I need to go back to the camera myself, I guess. Okay. So I don't know if people want to give some comments, thoughts, questions, additions, what you did or didn't like, all of that stuff. We would really appreciate some input at this point.
And how many breakout groups do you think you're going to have?
Tim, it depends on the number of people, but I mean, and it also somewhat depends, and we need to talk with Steph and others about where, because we brainstormed, like I said, a few locations. But let's just imagine if everybody on this commission was there, that's 14 to start with, plus a couple of city staff. So if you've got 15 or 16 people there, and then you want to have others, maybe we add another 25, that could be 40. So we were talking about how many people we could fit at a table and still have good conversation. It's 5 or 6. So maybe, 8 tables, Tim, and in a good lighted setup so that we can have flip charts and take notes, and we can see each other, and then pull it back together and be able to share that with everybody up in a say a front area. So that's kind of what we were first of all thinking about.
So the second part of the question is, I've done this kind of stuff not that often, but making sure that each table really has somebody who knows how to lead it and keep it going.
Yeah.
Because
totally
it's a big responsibility to do each one right. So, and that's only a couple of meetings, not a whole lot of time in between. So that's my thought. Because I think what you're doing is terrific, and it's really, I'm sitting here by the river in Marshall, and I know that somebody I could bring from Marshall that's involved.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. And we totally get what you're saying. When we had a conversation about that, we need to have, at the end of the discussion we're going to have right now, we need to have people volunteer for these key positions and some others. and then we can have conversation about what needs to be done at each, at each table. So we've got, very coordinated, and there would be some prep ahead of time, obviously. So I appreciate your comment. Joe?
I just, and your time outline is for 2 hours. It seems like a lot to try to accomplish in 2 hours, but.
Well, we agree with you, and we went back and forth quite a bit in our conversation to develop that draft about the time, how much people would be willing to put into it. People start drifting off before you know it, then you got to give them dinner and breakfast, and so really what happens is, as Tim said, we have to have people who keep people on time. Don't get off on that tangent. Yeah. This is what we're working on, and we have to follow through and be very organized about what we're going to do. You can't just let it be chit chat over here and there. So it does require strict, almost like discipline about it.
Well, you've thought this through, and it makes sense. So I just this was wondering.
Yeah, it's going to be a challenge. We originally had more time in it, and then folks said, that's a lot of time, and we don't know how many people are going to be able to stay or will be willing to stay that long. So that just puts us in a position where we have to really stick to the plan when we get there.
And Anne, you had shared that we would have some sort of a script, right? An outline of what to discuss in the group setting. So that would help manage what
we have questions, particular topics to focus on with outcomes that we're looking for. So it's not just a chit chat. Oh, the river's really bad. What are we going to do? Oh my gosh, I'm really worried. No, it's structured conversation to get to an end. Yes.
And do you imagine that the scripts, I'll call it, or the questions would be unique to each group, or they would be the same questions?
I imagine, and certainly people could weigh in on this, but I imagine they're all the same, because if you start having all these different questions, then you really don't have a good way to pull it together. If you've got a rep from each of the topic, each of the list of groups that we had up there, all those, if you have somebody pretty much from each of those around the table, then you're going to have the knowledge that you need, and you're going to just get it. We can't have 40 people talking, and you can't stand up and lead something like that. So the reason we're having to break it out is so it's a manageable discussion where people have an opportunity to input their ideas and we keep it moving.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Kate or Samantha, did you have any other thoughts about this after we left our brainstorming and since you've seen this draft?
I think that the questions are going to be really critical to make sure that they're dialed in really well. I almost think that is as important, or maybe even more important, than who's facilitating, to make sure that, and then maybe even prioritizing them. So if we have 4 questions we want to go through, make sure that the first 2 are the ones that are the most important, just in case. It is hard to shush people when people want to share. And so just, just trying to be organized on the front end in that way, I think will be really important.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do think we could have some training on shushing though. Because I think you have to shush. You have to say, okay, people know that I'm really badly good at this. I'd say time is up. We got to move. And we stop that conversation. We move to the next one. That's how you shush. It may not be as nice as you would do, but it is the way we're going to have to figure that out, Catherine. You're right.
I agree, just that the timekeeping is going to be an important component of this, and also just making sure that the discussion, as it's being moderated by whomever is sitting, whichever individual is kind of taking on those responsibilities within each group, is doing the best that they can to kind of punctuate the discussion with reminders that hopefully the discussion is action driven and action focused, so that we can walk away with actionable takeaways, as you were saying before. So maybe just a matter of sending out a table setting message or 2, or choosing folks who are going to be or are willing to volunteer to sort of lead within those breakout groups ahead of time, to say, these are going to be our goals. And just a reminder, please feel empowered to guide the conversation as you need to with this goal in mind. But all of it looks great to me.
Yeah, and we'll do what Kate said. We'll shush. We'll just do a nice shushing.
Right.
when we need to.
Exactly.
Shush. We put the time signal up and go shush.
That'll be my job.
Well, that sounds good, but on the other hand, we are asking for input. We don't want to have a foregone conclusion. We want to bring in new ideas, and it's going to be a matter of how to manage that and how to plug those things in and move on.
It is hard, Joe. All these, many of us have had these meetings, been at these meetings, led these meetings before. It's a challenge, but if you don't want to end up with frustrated people and no outcome, you have to have a backbone and say, okay, guys, we need to move on. It's just how it has to be. I know you got a lot to offer, but we need to move on. You just have to do it. So those who aren't comfortable with doing that would not be good to sit at the table and be the one who had to do it. That's all I can say.
Well, I wonder if there is also like a secondary like follow-up way that people can share if they ran out of time.
Right.
If they're, I don't know if it's writing it down and leaving it in like a basket, like additional comments or something, or a follow-up in an email.
Yeah, we can certainly think about that too.
I can imagine that we might have 2 facilitators in each group, so we have support. So if it's, if there's 2 of us there, that if some person is just the sergeant at arms, remembers to, okay, I got the clock. It's just an idea.
Yeah. Christine, I see you shaking your head too. I have a sense you have some thoughts you want to share.
No, I just agree. I think it's probably better to have a couple of people who keep everybody on track. I agree.
Well, I think that's a great idea. We just need to get everybody to toe the line, and we'll have to figure out who's interested in being one of those people. And, Christine, I figured you would be. We have to have some shushers. We just have to. So what we'll do after this is have you all maybe offer your names or whatever. I think we can do that. Can we, Darren, ask for volunteers to?
Yeah,
be the
my hope would be
leads after the
that,
meeting?
yes, I think my hope would be that all the commissioners would act as facilitators.
Well, some people aren't comfortable with that, Darren. So that's not
Well,
not a
they're
good
gonna
role.
they're gonna have to toughen up, Ann.
No, they could take notes or something else. There are
Okay,
other things.
okay. Oh, now you're getting all sweet and
No, I mean, if you don't like that role, there's no point pretending you're going to do it. That's all I'm saying.
right,
So let's give
okay.
you another one. We don't want to get off on tangents and lose time and have a table that didn't get to the end because whoever didn't do their work. So we can find places for people to participate.
I guess my bigger point would be I would hope that all the commissioners would take an active role in some capacity.
Yes.
In the meeting.
Yes.
Def,
I've got
does
these,
the hold on one second, Joe. Does the do our bylaws or anything prevent us from including the public in this work setting?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, like when we have a meeting, we only allow the public to comment at the end of the meeting. So is there anything that prevents?
No. Yeah, you can
Okay.
do whatever you want. Yeah.
This is
Okay.
like a workshop, Darren. We
Mhm.
have to have, the list of people we put down there are not commissioners necessarily. There are a lot of other people, right?
Yeah, I'm just I was just wondering if because it is actually our meeting. So I
Yeah,
know in
you'll-
the past we don't allow public to chime in, so I just wanted to confirm.
I think it's a good point. So you're not following a standard meeting agenda, and you just make really clear when you advertise that this is an interactive meeting and the whole thing is a public input session.
Okay.
Right? The whole thing is like Ann said, it's a workshop with the public.
It's a workshop, and to be honest, we're going to invite, I think that's another thing that all of us need to do is think about who should be there so we can invite X number of developers, X number of designers, X number of this or that or the other, and get them to come And we'll have to figure out what to do with other people who decide they want to attend and haven't been notified and didn't come with a particular background. I don't know how any of that works or how it should work. Maybe Stephanie has a better idea about how to do that. But I mean, we don't want 100 people to show up, and that would be a great problem. But I don't imagine we would have room for that many people, for example.
But Darren, were you asking if the public could serve in like as a facilitator or in that way, or were you just
Really just participating
okay?
in that setting. And I guess my follow-up, Steph, is this, I guess we're not required to have an additional meeting to run our typical.
Correct. You can just
okay.
have it be a special work session, just like you do a retreat or anything else. You don't have to approve minutes at the meeting. You don't have to do any business.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Other thoughts? Because I guess what we'll need to do, and we haven't thought this through, is to get people to volunteer to be a facilitator or a note taker or whatever other roles. We did identify in there facilitators and note takers, I think, in that draft. But I guess, when are we meeting again, Darren? In July?
Yeah, we would have a scheduled July and then August meeting.
So maybe between now and the next meeting, we could get people to think about what they want to do. We've already got Christine volunteered. I know Kate and Sam and I and Darren will definitely take a role. We need to think about, everybody needs to pick up something, and Tim, I'm sure will, David, everybody will. So we just need to get people set up so that by the next meeting, at least then we can have nailed that down and whatever other
I have a
ideas.
feeling that Jeremy's a good shusher.
I bet he is.
I'm sorry I said that.
Well, I have these.
We love it. It's a
I
good
have
one,
these
Kate.
very large.
I was waiting for that. I was
There it
gonna
is.
offer
There
my
you go.
services, but I was waiting for that.
Yeah, you'd be a good leader. Jeremy would be a good leader. He's got the combination. He can do
I
both.
have these.
And he's a developer. He's got
I
it
have
all.
these very large hammers that I made for Asheville Greenworks to use for pumpkin smashing. And I think there are only 5 of them, but we give those to the shushers. And if
Okay,
the people
so-
don't shush, they threaten them with the hammer.
That sounds
I
good.
think that Joe's comment had great wisdom, though. That you don't want to have a meeting with a foregone conclusion. I thought that there was great wisdom in what he said.
Oh, we definitely don't have any foregone conclusions, but the point we were making, Jeremy, is we got to keep people moving, because there is only an hour and you can wander off into all kinds of theory and, talk about the stars. And at the end of it, you don't have what you need to move ahead.
It's a delicate balance. So we have we need timekeepers, facilitators, note keepers.
That's a good start.
What else? I guess, Anne, you would present in the beginning, someone to kind of be the master of ceremonies.
I'll have the biggest hammer of all.
You gotta have the shushers.
Other comments or thoughts or questions or whatever?
I have a comment about, okay, I think we're doing a great job planning the event, but it might be good to think through what we're going to do afterwards. How do we take all of this, synthesize it, and then what does it end up being, a report or a submission, or just to think through that too.
Yeah, I agree. I think at the end of the outline we had, it included that, the next step after would be to take that information, and hopefully during the meeting we would, and even before, we'd start working on who from each of these categories can spend some time working on a plan. And I think it'll be critical to get the right people from city staff and county staff, the stormwater people, and on involved in order to come up with some of these prioritized activities, whatever those might be. And, in the end, what we would, I guess, want to do is give this to city manager and council and say, we need this work to be done, and maybe it needs to go into next year's budget cycle. How much how can we work on that together to help achieve these goals that everybody has identified as critical for this community? So I don't know exactly what that'll look like, Kate, but that I think if we start talking about it and looking for, September on into January, I think is when the work starts for the budget, but getting things ready, that would be more conversations and discussions with various people about it.
Yeah, and who on our commission is going to follow through on that? Just done this in other ways, and then there's all this work after all the work has been done. So just making sure that we account for that.
Mm-hmm.
Sage, is there a way to present our findings, we'll call them right now, and recommendations to city council?
I mean, to date, what has happened is a group that isn't like a proper board and commission. Like if this commission is doing it, then yeah, I could move up the channels. It would be, sometimes what I see is that the city manager will do that as a manager report, a report out on a particular initiative. I don't know. I don't know enough to say, hey, here's the 3 things you do in order. So I don't want to send us down a road that wouldn't get us there. But I think I can ask her, I'll poke around at it and see what is best for procedure. I know there's been some more and more community presentations building, and we're not sure how to, equally handle them all and share them all. So there's some discussion.
Tim.
Chairman Green, isn't that what you read in the beginning, that we make recommendations to the city? Isn't this what we're meeting for?
Well, recommendation 2 is one thing. Coming to council to present is what I thought you were asking. And that just becomes a different thing that I'm still learning about and happens to be a lot of happening right now.
We can make a verbal recommendation to council, I think.
And I can always send along things like presentations and recommendations from this commission, but the presentation thing, I need more info.
Steph, do you have any guidance or thought about that to add to what Sage just offered relative to, getting on the calendar for city council presentation?
It's not regular that boards and commissions present at city council. So I'm kind of with Sage on this one. It would, really just be a conversation with the city manager to talk about what that might look like.
It's happened in the past when like an initiative has gone through and been reviewed, and there's been like affordable housing presentations. There's been some things, but I think they usually land in the manager's report as updates. Yeah, let me flesh it out a little.
Okay.
Maybe we present to the city manager first.
I mean, there's definitely effort worthwhile in having deliverable and putting up the lines and sharing, talking, building momentum.
Okay. Joe?
And I have a question for you. Could you post again the link to the whatever the DEQ, what we're in non-compliance with? So I wanted to do a little more. I know you told one time how I could find that information so I could read, what we're designated as an impaired water, this 19 miles. How do I get a little more background on that for my own information to maybe have more to bring to this discussion?
What do you mean by background?
I mean, what is I mean, you say the E. coli and sedimentation are the parts where we don't meet the standards. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, fecal coliform, yes, and sediment are the 2 big ones in most of our area.
Okay. I guess so. The sediment can come from stormwater, can come from construction sites and whatever. the fecal coliform can come from leaky sewers or farms or
Yes, all of that.
dog parks or whatever. Okay.
Yes, and I can't remember if you were there. I guess you missed the last meeting. We had
I
a
did.
presentation on this, and I talked about it at another meeting that we had. So there's been some discussion about the sources and causes, and that's what we want to delve into a little more and do more educating on and get people's input on. So.
Well, if you can send me anything to catch me up, that would be great. Or maybe just any references that might be helpful. I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll try to think about what, I'm not exactly sure how deep you want to get into it, but I'll try to send you something, Joe.
Thank you.
And what do you think about opening up that Google Doc for comments from the entire commissioners as far as like who to invite, who to reach out to, ideas? Did I lose you? Can you hear me?
Anne is muted.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, yeah, if you think that's a functional approach, I think that's, certainly Steph could put it on a link somewhere and we could get to it.
Yeah.
Information sharing is one thing, but don't deliberate that way, y'all. Like, don't, remember it's a public meeting.
That's right.
We have to plan in public.
Yeah, I mean, you can, like, if you create a Google Doc and people are dropping information in it, great. Maybe you link to that Google Doc and an agenda. I don't know. You don't have to, but don't start commenting about we should do this or we should do that or what if we did this instead, because that's really meant to be in the public meeting portion. It's the same reason we don't email like that kind of stuff back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So brainstorm, but and actually under the proposed boards and commission structure, you'd simply say, we need a working group to focus on this, set them on fire, go. And it wouldn't be that way, which is an interesting twist.
So are you saying we need to create a working group to
No,
plan
I'm just
between
saying
meetings?
under the proposed changes, that is one of the things that it gets a little easier. It's one of the things I like about the proposed changes, that you can actually initiate working groups and task forces and do things and like set out to do them and accomplish them and check the box and come back and report.
Okay.
Well, we have a little subgroup that brainstormed already on the commission. So, we can just rely on that. It was just a few people and we can continue that.
That's a good idea. That way you can just avoid any potential deliberation.
Mm-hmm.
As staff, I will add, I appreciated Kate saying, hey, I'm considering what happens afterwards. There's also a beforewards part to talk about. We've talked about it a little bit in the small group, and that is marketing. So I hear Anne and others saying that you don't necessarily want 100 people there, but just making sure that if there are people that should hear about this or that might afterwards say, how come this wasn't open or marketed to everyone? We don't want that to happen. We do want this to be, it's going to be a public meeting, and we need to make sure that there's really clear information for anybody that might want to come. So what I would suggest is that we also, in this case, might want to ask for potential RSVPs, right? So it could look, like a separate evite or something like that, just so we could track. And if there is, more people than we anticipated, we can move the meeting. So
Okay. Yeah.
a few things with marketing and planning on the front end.
Mm-hmm.
Would that evite go out through the city channels?
Yeah, we can make sure something went out that looked like an RSVP or an evite, or that, a way for people to say that they plan on attending.
And you think that needs to go out, 6 weeks in advance, or how long?
Maybe not 6 weeks in advance. I think.
Nobody plans that far ahead anymore, except people like
Kind of,
me.
except for people doing vacations, but
Yeah.
yeah, maybe 4 weeks. And sometimes I think, I hate to do this actually, because I'm not on Facebook and I don't think it's an equal way to get to people, but sometimes we've had, we have used Facebook event pages, and then people can say they plan on attending, and at least you have an idea, right? Not everyone's not using Facebook, but you
Like
might
the
get
city
it.
of Asheville's Facebook page?
Yes, we do that with events sometimes.
Okay.
Yep.
And there are platforms that will allow you to, RSVP to an event that you can share on Facebook, but it's not the only way. You can also go send in an email and stuff and put it on a website. So maybe one of those calendar platforms that isn't limited to one social media body. I know I have a few updates if you guys want me to update us on council, but I have a hard stop at 5:15 or so. So I don't want to stop this conversation, but I'm happy to also move to updates when you're ready.
Are you ready to move on, everyone? And did you have any final words?
No, I think we'll get back together as a little group and try to follow up on this, I guess, and come back to you with some more. We're still looking for the location. I think that's important. And the date is, what was it, September 8th or something like that? I've forgotten.
I think it's the 9th.
Okay.
So 3 months.
Yep.
7th. Somebody said the 7th.
Okay, that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you.
I think
Sage,
the
thank
sooner
you.
the sooner we
That
could
was my
have the questions together, so we could maybe start working on that list of questions. And I'd like to rejoin the little group that I was in.
Absolutely.
Ready for updates?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah, sorry, we didn't actually think to put this on the agenda, but I do have a few things. Let's see. So the big thing that we are dealing with next week is the budget hearing. It'll be the final budget hearing before we adopt a budget. It's when public input is allowed. And I'll tell you just kind of some key things so you know if you want to lean in or make a public comment or reach out to us. So we had significant growth in revenues that go into the general fund in two big buckets: property taxes and sales taxes. Sales taxes are a little more unpredictable. It's worth mentioning that, the better the tourism, the better the sales tax revenue. And they're, I don't know if that's going to stabilize. We don't know what's going to happen with the economy, but we're trying to bet on a, certain level of sales taxes. And then property taxes we did not increase taxes, but the values of our residential houses and buildings continue to climb. So therefore we're seeing additional property tax income. I mean, those were pretty significant. So it's letting us make some larger initiatives. One thing that most industries are dealing with is staffing issues, loss of staffing, and so on. I think you're probably all touched by this in some capacity. So we're trying to do a larger percentage increase. We've traditionally done a 2.5% cost of living increase, and we're looking at doing a 5%, similar to the county. We also have an increase in living wages. So the Just Economics Group does a certification program and stuff, and they kind of keep track of the rents for the area, which determines a livable wage. And that has jumped to $17.70. And there's been an arduous process of figuring out if we can actually get there and what it means for compression and stuff. And I'm very hopeful that we will get there. I think it's about a $600,000 a year annualized impact. We are talking a lot about urban forestry, whether we can afford to do a plan or a position or both. And I know we've kind of sought some input from staff about, if you could only do one, which would you do first? And it seems like the staff would come before the planning. So I'm hopeful that can come to this budget cycle. Another big thing is reparations. So we have established this commission. They've had a few meetings now, and there's much work to be done still. But we use some of the initial funding that we set aside from the sale of urban renewal land to hire the body that is kind of activating and facilitating the commission. So we want to replenish what we've used for that. And we're looking at ways and whether or not we can create an annual funding mechanism. Like we always contribute to the city's housing trust fund every year. And can we do that in this case? And what would that look like? So that's a big topic. And then lastly, a fleet of neighborhood and kind of public services increases, whether it's trash cleanup or neighborhood planning or better GIS tools, that kind of stuff, to just kind of step up on how we're caring for communities and our overall just basic core services. And those are the big things that I think are the big topics this year of what we can do more of and what, is on the table for just kind of pulling from some areas to fund others. But I think those are the big 5 top items. And additionally, I will share that I've heard some rumblings that the tourism tax legislation that is about to be heard is not feeling as strong anymore. So that's some worrisome things we're hearing about. If you have legislators that are in your contact list, please reach out and continue to work on them to, hear that bill and change our occupancy tax percentage. But I'm hearing that it's maybe not looking so good anymore. And that's really all the updates for right now. I wasn't part of your last meeting, so I didn't have an update then. If you have anything in particular that you'd like to ask me about, I'm here to ask away.
Anybody have any questions?
Any thoughts on those budget items? 5 big items.
I heard that former council member Julie Mayfield had proposed an increase in the sales tax. Is that?
Now, what she wanted to do, and I love this idea. So we are having to reduce our transit routes right now, not at our own doing, but simply because we have a contracted service with a group that hires all the drivers and all the fleet managers, all of that. And they are so understaffed that they cannot supply enough drivers. So it doesn't matter how much money we can throw at it right now, we can't fill the positions. So we are seeing a reduction in transit lines right now, and it's creating a stir in the community because on the other side of that, we're also hearing this narrative that you just shared. But what's happening is the county can take on an additional sales tax. They could put it on a referendum. They could say we're going to add 25 cents or a quarter of a cent, I should say, to sales taxes locally, and that money will go to a transit authority and transit growth. It can only be used for new growth, not existing uses. But the city of Asheville cannot, under the current legislation, do that. Only counties can. So what Julie Mayfield is strategically doing is requesting a bill to allow this city to adopt a local sales tax initiative. Does that make sense? So it's really about changing who has the authority to have the sales tax implemented, and then whether or not this city would actually vote on that would come after it. Does that help? Good question, though.
Sounds good. I just am worried that it's not going to get support in the legislature since they usually don't like what we want them to do. But let's all keep our fingers crossed.
Yes, I wish we could do more than cross fingers, but it does seem like that more and more. The further I am in the seat, I see that statement become more and more true.
This question relates to mostly the Greenway and even city-owned properties that I know have been underfunded for maintenance. I know some of the property is maintained by Public Works, some is maintained by Parks and Rec. Do you see any improvements to the level and frequency of maintenance along these new developments like the Greenway or parks?
I don't know definitively if that is under the same category as most things, which is understaffing, but I do understand Public Works. Last time I got an update was down 60% of staff. 60%. It was the largest department shortage. So we were talking about why are the trash cans overflowing? Because we didn't have people to go empty them. So I want to guess that might be why. I don't know for sure, but my suspicion is staffing and that it's not intended to be ill cared for. If you do see things, I am encouraging people to utilize the app because if you can imagine, there's a lot of needs across the city. We don't have navigators out there looking for the problems. And when there are fewer staff and more needs, I think things like the Asheville app that can surface something, give it an actionable item, send in a picture, a location, etc. I think that improves the chances of things getting resolved. So if you're seeing an area that is just really overgrown, use the app. Take a picture right then. It takes 30 seconds, send it in. You'll get correspondence back. You'll get updates about when it's been deployed or fixed and so on. And I think it's really helping staff right now just to prioritize things.
Thank you. I know you've got to go soon, so Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Are there any comments or questions in general before we end this?
I drove past Vice Chairman Brown's Riverlink building, and he's putting the windows in. It's in our purview of the river, and he's doing a great job. So he's not here to take the accolades, but I wanted to thank him.
Thank you. All right.
I have one real quick. I'm sorry, Darren.
Sure.
This
No,
is
go ahead.
Amanda. I just wanted to let everyone know that we at the Chamber and the Economic Development Coalition and our partners at organizations like the Mountain Area Workforce Development Board and the Land of Sky P20 Council have just recently concluded the measurement period of the State of Our Workforce Western North Carolina survey. It's something that we do every 3 years. We last did in 2018, and it's a survey that has been conducted and operated by RTI International for us again this year. It measures workforce needs from the perspective of employers of all different sizes and across 10 different industries across 10 different counties in Western North Carolina. So now that the survey is closed, RTI is crunching those data, and we look forward to having key takeaways about what the primary workforce gaps are from the perspective of employers probably in July to help kind of guide what our forthcoming economic development and workforce development efforts are going to look like. And I only thought of this because Councilmember Turner just brought up the challenges staffing, even roles like public works within local governments. We certainly know that labor shortages are not unique necessarily to any one sector in our economy right now, and we're really looking forward to figuring out how this information can help us identify some gaps and opportunities on that. So hopefully it'll be helpful for some business owners on the riverfront as well.
Thank you. Maybe if you are available and willing, you can present some of those findings at a future meeting.
Happy to. That would be great. We hope to also share some at an upcoming Policy on Tap. So
Thank you. All right. Now I think we can adjourn if there's no other comments or.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Yes. Yeah. Now, Jeremy, this is where you come in.
Are you, Chair, you will ask.
I
for
second
public
the
comment.
motion.
What's that, Steph?
Dana, do we have any public comment for the chair?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Commission?
Like, did I miss my cue? No public comments or no callers in the queue.
Maybe one day we'll have somebody leave us a message.
I'm going to leave the meeting and call.
Well, thank you, everyone. We'll be in touch. Have a good rest of your week, and thank you all for being here.
Good to see you all.
thank
Good to see you back, Joe.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.